Okay, let's talk about the forbidden, I should say, history or culture of humanity. And that forbidden culture, one which we're really not allowed to talk about to this day, is the culture of the feminine, the ancient culture of the goddess, or what has been described as the missing half of humanity's psyche. So like I said to you before, we got two sides of the brain. The right side is the creative, the intuitive, the left, the rational mind. So the missing half is the half of the intuitive mind. And this is what we call the feminine, or the divine feminine. Yeah? And when did this prohibition, or should we say erasing of the feminine happen? We know that as far as nearly 5,000 years ago, there were the earliest attempts to overcome the older culture of the feminine. This was of the goddess. This was done in the Southeastern European countries. What Maria Gimbutas, the famous Lithuanian American archaeologist, called Old Europe. She discovered during her archaeological digs in Greece and Yugoslavia, much older layer of culture beneath the layer of culture that we have now, the patriarchy, the warrior culture, was an older culture based in the Danube basin, which was based on figurines of the feminine, of the goddess, based on the feminine, based on creativity, the experiential side of life, the creative side of life. And that's why the goddess, the highest deity, the image of the highest deity of the most holy was woman. Because women ask for the experiential side of life. They don't want to really be told or read it in a Bible or be, beaten over the head with scripture and you have to remember this here, you have to remember that. They want to experience life, experience especially the mystery of life. And this is probably best seen in the old ancient Greek and later Roman tradition of the god, I forget his name now. Women would go into a trance. They would dance and go into a trance. They wanted to experience the deity. You see, they didn't want to be told how to experience the deity, or just worship the deity with set rules and regulations that like you had with the cult of the Apollo. But with this, I forget his name now, but with this deity, you see, they wanted to experience, they wanted to know exactly how it feels to stand there before God and experience Him, So that's the important difference, and this has been forbidden to us. We are not allowed to experience the deity, the god, the goddess, or the holy on our own. Because if you do experience this on your own, there is no need for a mediator. There's no need for priests. The priestly class. There's no need for temples, for churches, for synagogues and so on. So because the patriarchy wanted to rule the world, there's a famous statement to this effect told by Joseph Campbell during his interview with Bill Moyers in The Power of Myth. when Bhumo is asking about the culture of the goddess and what happened to it, and Joseph Campbell said, you know, the patriarchy destroyed it because they wanted to rule the world. So when did this? Well, the earliest we have is, like I said, with Maria Gimbutas's work, some 5,000 years ago. That's going back to the Neolithic, where we have the first waves of the warrior culture, men culture ruled by men, coming off from the plains of the Black Sea, north of the Black Sea. And they had weapons, and they also managed to tame the horse. So they were horse riding warriors with weapons, and they had weapons. The culture in the basin of the Danube basin, the culture centered on the feminine, which was really agricultural culture. They were growing crops, and their main interests were crops and art and worshipping of the goddess. The goddess was everything. The feminine was the deity, the holy, was present in all things, in the earth, in the trees, in the butterfly, in the blade of grass, in you and me. But the maledom, the warrior culture, which we now have, the patriarchy, they've divided that. They divided that the spirit and matter were different. The spirit of God was separate, out there in the sky. It was not here on earth. So everything here on earth is fallen, you see, and we are here because of the myth of the fall, which was also an invention of the priestly class to dominate the older culture of the goddess, which says that because in the old Bible, if you read the Old Testament, should I say, in the Bible, it says that God created Adam, and then out of Adam's rib he created Eve. See, the male is first, women are just an afterthought, and he put them in the Garden of Eden, and he created a tree. And it says you can eat whatever you like, but you're not allowed to eat of this tree. And of course, it was Eve that took the apple, or should we say that it was the serpent that told Eve to eat the apple. Of course, you want to eat the apple. That's the tree of knowledge, tree of wisdom. Why wouldn't you want to eat? Have your own experiences and experience wisdom. And as the story goes, she gave it to Adam, and Adam ate. God got angry, threw them out of paradise, out of Garden of Eden, here on earth, as a punishment. So earth is, to this day, in cultures, in the three patriarchal religions, main religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is a fallen place. You see, we are here to atone for the original sin, and woman is guilty. It's all her fault for us falling to this prison, if you like. You see, so the woman has always been in these religions, especially in Judaism. To this day, she is in the Orthodox Judaism. She is the abomination. So we have now the Bible, the Old Testament, being decoded by Dr. Margaret Barker. She's a professor, and she has shown, I will provide all the links in the description, she has shown how the Old Testament has been deliberately changed to get rid of all the older mentions of the goddess of the feminine. And what was the older goddess in Judaic tradition? Asherah. She was in fact wife to Yahweh prior to this revision, to this deliberate revision by the priests. She was his equal. Yahweh and Asherah ruled together. Then came along in about 600 BC priests called Deuteronomists. And they deliberately started to delete from the scriptures all references to the feminine, to the goddess. They destroyed her sacred groves, that destroyed all her effigies, all her statues. And Judaism is to this day, in the Jewish tradition, the feminine is the abomination, and we have that repeated in the Christian tradition. Both, especially in the Old Testament, of course, and in the New Testament, women have to be obedient to men. And, it wasn't really all that long ago when women got the right to keep the property. When she divorced her husband, to keep half of the property. I think it was only here in 1970s, in middle of 1970s in Australia, where when a woman divorced, she wasn't entitled to keep anything. Her husband, he held on to the whole property. I don't know what it's like in the US. I imagine it wasn't that much earlier, where these laws just imagine, for thousands of years, and they are just beginning to change. Yeah. So I want to read you a few things that I wrote a few years ago regarding this problem of the demonization of this forbidden part of our history, forbidden part of our culture. It is forbidden to this day. I'll share with you a few stories from what I have in my own experience. But for instance, Dr. Maria Gimbutas, I'll provide links to all this in the description. When she went public with the discovery of the figurines from this area she called Old Europe, archaeological discoveries that she found, the mainstream archaeology rejected her findings out of hand, and then rejected her. Her career was over. They began the process of destroying her. Only recently have some of the people that were against her come out publicly to say that she was right, especially about the male warrior culture, that it didn't, the older culture of the feminine didn't just change into this new aggressive male culture, but the male culture actually came from outside and began the process of destroying it. Yeah, there are many stories like this that where someone comes out and speaks about this story of the older culture, or even mentions the word feminine. The traditionalists, and especially deeply religious, and the people that are afraid of losing their commission, losing their job, because they are deeply, involved. They are deeply engaged in following the approved narrative. They will go along and with the process of destroying you. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their money. It didn't happen to me in such a way that they were closing my bank accounts or telling me I can't find a job anymore. But I have had attacks on me done on Facebook, for instance, where my account was closed for over 7 days, about 10 days I think. Deleted. The whole thing was deleted. Everything I've written, gone. You couldn't find me on Facebook. You could find some of my work that wasn't under my name, but my name, Marek Peter Kazinek, all gone. There's no, like I didn't exist. The whole thing. Instagram also deleted some of my work. They keep deleting. TikTok, even TikTok, deleted some of my work. So this thing keeps going to this day. The narrative is that, the male culture, the male god is the only part of our culture. We don't have anything to do with the feminine, yeah? So I'll read you something that I wrote. Where are we? Okay. With a quote from Anne Baring. Anne Baring is another one that suffered terribly from the attacks because she talks about the feminine. She is a Jungian analyst and a historian by trade, by training as a Jungian analyst and training as a historian prior to being a Jungian analyst. So she knows the history of how it all happened, and she gives wonderful lectures. I'll provide links in the descriptions of how the transformation happened, how the feminine god started to get oppressed. She calls it the lunar era, the earlier era of the feminine, of the goddess, and then later the solar era, the era of God the Father. Yeah, and it all started to happen around 3000 BC or so about 5,000 years ago. And I'll have a quote here from her. But this is what I wrote. I posted this recently. By the way, we've got a new camera. I got another phone, because I had to. The old 4G phone didn't work anymore, so I had to get another one. And I have a new camera, so it's not the same quality. I think the old phone was better, but I can speak a little longer and bore you a little longer. It's got more memory. Anyway, so this is what I wrote. Our most urgent task is to understand the difference between the current system of patriarchy, which insists humanity and nature are separate. God is other to creation, to be found outside of our earth, in another universe, another dimension only, and the earlier, much longer lasting and now returning way of the feminine, which knows the most sacred is present in all creation, including you. So like I said, that's the difference between the patriarchal culture and the feminine and the matriarchal culture. By the way, there's still matriarchal cultures in the world. Some of the oldest are in China, in Russia, and they are not reverse or mirror image of patriarchy. Men are not oppressed. Here, women are oppressed because of the myth of the fall and the earlier the desire to destroy the feminine completely. So women had to be oppressed, had to be kept down. So we see this to this day. Women are not getting the same equal pay. They're not treated equally in many places. Yeah. So so matriarchy is still alive in some places of the world, and they're not. There is actually a wonderful documentary about the continuum of the matriarchy in China, and I watched that documentary, and it says, and from the things that I got from it is that a woman doesn't need to marry. She's not forced into marriage. She can have boyfriends, and she can have many. No one judges her. Yeah, men were complaining a little that they are not treated the same way as men in the European and other cultures, in the Western cultures. They are the boss. Here, the women. The difference is that the matriarchy is the difference that the wealth, the family wealth, passes on to the daughter, not to the son. That's the real difference. Yeah. Okay. So this is a quote from Anne Baring. The moral order of the goddess culture, inherited from the Neolithic, was based on the principle of the relationship of the manifest to the unmanifest. I might put my glasses on, because it's getting harder to read now. To the unmanifest. So manifest is this visible world, what you see. The unmanifest is the invisible dimension of the spirit, the dimension that is invisible to us. We call it unmanifest. But that's the, dreams, visions, intuition. That's where you get all the unmanifest. And that's the core of the feminine. The core of the feminine is intuition. And then you have visions, and then you have dreams. And then the other important parts of the feminine are, for instance, service. Not just working for yourself, the selfishness of the capitalist system, for instance, just me, and to hell with others, but to be of service to the community. Just because you're needed there, you have skills that can help others. Yeah, there's relationship, which is extremely important. Not just relationship, of course, relationship between you and me, but relationship with everything. Relationship between countries, which is so sorely missing nowadays, which leads us to diplomacy. Western diplomacy is non-existent pretty much now. Everything is demanded. It's like children, like spoiled children, you know. So that's why it's missing. The feminine is missing. The feminine is, you know, diplomacy, for instance. There's beauty. There's art. There's love, of course. You know, which is feeling. So feminine is the core of the feminine is intuition, but but it has a wide range of values which are completely missing in our Western society. Yeah. So this is what she says. Yeah. Between the order of the manifest and unmanifest, human, animal, and plant life were all part of the epiphany. Yeah. The moral order of the god culture, derived from the Aryan and Semitic tribes, was based on the paradigm of opposition and conquest, a view of life and particularly nature as something other to be conquered. And we still have this now. That's the prevailing Western idea. The manifest world was seen as intrinsically separate from the unmanifest world, the spiritual world, which was now placed outside or beyond nature in the realm of the transcendent gods. Yeah. So this is Anne Baring and Jules Cashford from The Myth of the Goddess. So this is what we desperately need now. And the feminine, this older culture that we have, it's still within us. I still come up when people come to me with dreams, especially big archetypal dreams. The feminine, the deep feminine, this older tradition of the holy present in all things, especially in and in intuition especially, lives in our psyche, in our collective unconscious. Some of the images of the archetypal collective feminine in the collective unconscious, in the dreams, are, for instance, magical animals. I'm sure some of you have had experiences of magical animals in your dreams, animals that talk to you. That's paganism. That's much older than Christianity or Islam or Judaism. You're not allowed to have any of that in our religions, because it does not coincide with what's written in the Bible. Men need to have books and scriptures, laws and regulations. Women need to experience the life for themselves. They don't need to be told what to do. They are already intuitive enough to know what to do. The intuition is really, a lot of women have told me that their intuition, and they are pulled out of them when they give birth to children. Yeah, that they need to be that they're so in tune to the new child that they intuitively know what is required. That's when the intuition starts to develop in a big way for women. Yeah. And I'll tell you that how this is still to this day suppressed. This invisible dimension of the feminine. When Maria Gimbutas discovered her statues, because she's discovered thousands of little statues of what she called the goddess. They were all women, images of women with bird heads, with wings, with there were statues especially of birds such as ducks and swans and geese, because these are water birds, and these birds mediate between water and land and the sky. So the universe, the water is the underworld, the invisible dimension, and the land, the earth is our visible dimension. So she as a goddess is in all three dimensions. She is the whole thing. So that's why you've got these images of these women, and women with big buttocks especially. So this was like, in the buttocks might have been an egg. An egg is another symbol of the, giving birth to the intuitive side of life. Out of the egg comes the bird, the new birth of the rebirth or rejuvenation of your intuitive part, yeah? Which is the core of the feminine. To this day, these figurines are called Venus. Venus implies sexuality. And that is to say, women, because this is associated with the goddess, she's associated with Venus. That is to say, the feminine is associated from the patriarchal side of the mind, from the rational side of mind. She's associated with sexuality or with sexual pleasure for men. And the other description is given fertility. That is to say, women are there to give birth to children and to be of sexual pleasure to men. Looking from the point of view of the patriarchal system, and I'm sure that the birth of boys is what's most desired. Girls were not needed in patriarchy. It's the boys, because they wanted to have warriors. They wanted to create. They needed warriors to create chieftains and then kingdoms, and now of course empires. So they needed warriors for that, to steal other people's property, which is going on to this day. The empires are built on theft, like the British raped India and Africa. The Americans stole the land, North American Indian land and wealth. The Germans in Africa, the Spaniards in South America. It goes on and on and on to this day. The empire, it's built on theft. One culture sees itself as dominating culture, the white, the better, the chosen people, and the rest are the slaves, the masters and the slaves. Yeah. Okay. So what else did I wanted to talk to you about? So that's really the dominating, that's really what's most required for us to bring back this missing part of ourselves, which lives to this day deeply within us. I see this, like I said, in the dreams of people that are coming to ask me to interpret their dreams. There's the tree of life in there. There are the sacred animals in there. There's the images of the sacred of divine children as well. So you get all these older images in there. The superhuman images of the feminine, in it. Now I want to share with you a story of give you an example, the difference of between the patriarchy and the feminine. This is a story from Kina Upanishads, which is about 7th century BC. Yeah. So the story goes like this: the Indo-European gods are standing around and they see coming down the road a strange, mysterious phenomenon. This actually story is from Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell said this. I used to like sharing this story. They say, "Now I wonder what this is." Agni, the god of fire, says, "I'll go find out who it is." He goes and confronts the strange power, and the power says, "Who are you?" Agni says, "I am Agni. I am the god of fire. I can burn up everything." The strange power throws a straw on the ground and says, "Let's see you burn that." Agni can't burn the straw. He goes back to the others and says, "I don't know what this. I can't do anything." Yeah. So these are the patriarchal gods, and are trying to figure out what this mysterious power is standing before them. So Rudra, the Lord of Winds, says, "I'll go, let me talk." So Rudra goes, and this strange power says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Rudra. I'm the Lord of the Winds. I can blow anything down." So the power puts the straw down and says, "Let's see you move that." Rudra can't move it. He returns to the others. Then a female god appears. There you go. The female god comes. There's the feminine, Maya. This is her first appearance in the whole Vedic tradition, and she introduces the gods to